that you received at TMZ, and we got new details every time, but they all have the same Bitcoin address. Do you have any updates on those letters and your guarantee to the person writing them that you would pass on the information to the FBI and guarantee that they get the reward money now up to $200,000?
Couple of things. It's not just the letters that we received from the person demanding money in return for information. It's also the ransom note we got. I will tell you, the FBI is very interested in both the ransom letter and these demand letters. In particular today, I mean, there was a lot of communication between us and the FBI. So they are really interested in this. That does not mean they've cracked it, because frankly, I don't think they have, but they are certainly trying. As for the person who wrote the note, Sean, we decided that we're not going to say if he sent us any more letters, because if we say we got a letter today, and tomorrow you ask me and I say we got a letter tomorrow, and then the next day we say we're not going to talk about it, it tips off the kidnapper. We're essentially saying, well, that's the day he gave us the information. We're just not going to say anything. He can, if he wishes, give us the information, and as we promised, we will pass it on to the FBI. Then there's a record that he supplied that information.
Let's talk about the names that they brought to the gun ranges in the area.
So here's what we know. There were reports that there were around 40. I talked to a gun store owner today who said he felt it was more like 30 names that he was shown last week by an FBI agent. She showed him these names, wanted to find out if anybody had purchased a gun. One of these people had purchased a gun in the last year. What we found out from law enforcement sources is those names came from a list they compiled of people who purchased that polyester holster that this man was wearing. And so they went to Walmart and possibly other stores, and what they did was they compiled the list of people, and now they're trying to find out, did anybody also buy a semi-automatic handgun, because that would be a hot lead for them if they can find somebody who bought both the holster and a similar weapon. The person we spoke to, the gun store owner we spoke to, said he didn't see any matches, but they have been to other stores as well.
You know, as a gun owner, somebody who's had a pistol carry permit his entire adult life, I don't know a single gun owner that would use that type of holster. Let me ask you about the FBI and their database. The single sample from the house, the sample from the glove, were not the same person. Other DNA found in the home was from multiple people, will need to be separated before it can be tested. No match in the FBI's DNA database. And now they're going to use this genetic genealogy that caught other killers in the past. I want to go through that because you know a lot about it.
Well, let's start with the testing of the glove. First of all, we found out it's not the glove that the New York Post photographer took a picture of. It's a different glove that they took for testing. You know, I know you've been talking about this, whether there is some kind of a squabble between the FBI and the sheriff. Here's what I found interesting. The sheriff today said that we sent the glove to Florida and it went into the CODIS system and there was no match. What we found out is that the FBI cannot put that DNA in the CODIS system without testing it in an FBI-approved lab in the state in which the item was found, namely Arizona. So we found out that the FBI did its own testing at a lab in Arizona, and that's what went into the CODIS system. And the person I spoke to could not understand why it would also go to Florida, because it can only go in the CODIS system if it emanated from a lab in Arizona. That said, it's not a match. So this genealogy testing the genetic testing is really important, because, you know, there are ways that if it's a close match, but not identical, then, you know, you can start looking at, is there a relative who shows up? And it turns out that they have an uncle who is 5'10", who lives in the Tucson area, and then suddenly you can kind of figure it out that way. Ancestry.com and 23andMe do not work with the FBI because of privacy rules. The FBI is using smaller companies, but it has worked in the past.
All right, Harvey Levin, thanks for all those updates. Appreciate all the hard work you're doing on this. Thank you. All right, joining us now, the host of Crime Stories on Fox 1, Nancy Grace. I'll start with the same question that I did ask Harvey. 16 days in, I never give up hope. I know you never give up hope, but you broke my heart on radio. You broke my heart on this show last night, Nancy. You live this, and you could see the stress, and you know what the human toll is on Savannah and her family. And I just don't give up hope. And, I find myself turning on the TV at night, hoping that I'm going to see that Nancy's been found and reunited, will soon be reunited with her family. I'm just hoping for that headline. And I know you are too.
Let me ask you something, Sean. Did you ever think that this was going to be easy? Because it's not, and it's not going to be easy to solve this case. There are going to be many, many more setbacks than there will be advances in this case. The fact that that glove around 2 miles away from her home did not get a CODIS hit, okay, fine, next. Now we take that DNA and we compare it in the Arizona data bank. The Arizona data bank is much more lenient in what it allows. For instance, mixtures of DNA, degraded DNA, co-defendant, suspect, DNA on crime scenes that haven't been solved. The National Data Bank has a very, very high bar as to what can be allowed into the CODIS data bank. See what I'm saying? So we may have a good chance at the Arizona data bank, which has over 500,000 DNA profiles. So, hey, I don't want to smell the stench of defeat tonight. This is just starting. This is one setback. And let me talk to you some more about DNA. And I've tried many DNA cases. The DNA in the home has yet to be mined. Think about it, Sean. You and I, frame for frame, we looked at the porch guy. Remember? Do you remember? Yes, he had on gloves, but he kept touching the holster of his gun. And more important, he kept touching the bite light, which was drenched in his saliva. Now, let's follow that through to its logical conclusion, Sean. He touches that glove. Then he takes that glove and he touches the doorknob. Remember at the get-go, the lights were on in the front of her home, which is unusual. He turned on the light switch. He opened her doorknob after drenching his hand with saliva. That is how touch DNA works. Just because we didn't hit a home run the first time we went up at bat on that glove found out by the side of the road, I am not dissuaded this case will be solved as we go to air tonight, right now. Google is being mined for the rest of the cameras in her home. It's happening. That DNA is going to be mined tonight for genetic testing. And you go way, way back. You go to people coming over on the Mayflower, for Pete's sake, to get the genealogy down. And I want to point to the first time it was used, Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, a cop. You think he had DNA in the database? No, he didn't. But he was caught. A rapist and a killer was caught through genetic genealogy. It's real, it's happening, and all I need is one person in some of those databanks, and it will be solved. And remember also, in Brian Koberger, they did dip into private genetic testing. You know, like when you do 23andMe or Ancestry.com, that was a big problem at trial. Now, regarding this array, this photo array that's being shown to gun store owners, that tells me that they have an idea of who they're looking for. somebody that has bought a gun, and I don't know that they would buy at a traditional gun store, so that might be a fail, but I see what they're looking for, who they're looking for. Somebody that bought a gun, somebody with a holster like that, somebody that shops at Walmart.